Okay, so let's move forward to the agenda. Up next, we have our second panel discussion on leadership in crisis, navigating major cyber incidents. For this panel discussion, I would like to have moderator Mr. Ajay Bhayani, Director Security at Ambisure Technologies Private Limited, and our esteemed panelist Agnidipta Sarkar, VP CISO Advisory Color Tokens, Gokulavan Jayaraman, CISO and DPO Mahindra Home, Naseem Halder, Head of Cybersecurity and Compliance from Slice, and Vikram Taneja, Director CyberSRC. I would like to have
Okay,
panel.
thank you,
Over.
Bhairavi. Thanks for that. And it was a great session, guys. Really nice to hear the people in the previous panel, especially on the startup ecosystem, because cybersecurity is always a growing field. So startup ecosystem is one thing which is always going to be really very useful for countering new threats. But let's come back to our platform and our panel and such a light panelist we have, right? We have Vikram, we have Agni, Naseem, Gokul. I'm not able to see you. Probably you are still outside, but yes, we'll definitely looking forward to hear you as well. Great. Now, it is really, it's a great pleasure for me to host you here, guys. Now, the topic which we're going to talk about today, and this is so right because it was just last week we were battling with something which was required a really great leadership in place. And I think this is a right panel. We have industry veterans and we have somebody who are practitioners, who are consultants as well. So it's a pretty good mix, and I think it's going to be a pretty scintillating session out here. So, while we talk about the leadership in crisis, or how are we going to mitigate any kind of cyber incident, why do we really need it? Let's understand that first. Cybersecurity is something we are talking about securing the IT infrastructure. Somebody just messaged me on LinkedIn saying that, if we are always going to get hacked, why do we really need to have it in picture? Why do we really need security? My answer to that is that if you're going to die, then why do you need to have insurance? If your company is going to get faced a fire one day, why are you going to go for a fire insurance? Right? That's a simple answer out there. It's not about mitigating or avoiding the threat. It's about being resilient while you are being there, right? When the incident is actually happening. How do you maintain yourself calm? How do you make sure that you are going to communicate effectively? Now, how do you going to work under the pressure? That's what actually is all about. We need to really take up this real world scenarios, do the learning and move ahead with it. We need to make sure that the impact of this cyber attacks are going to be as minimal as possible, right? So that is where I invite each of my panelists to actively engage, and not only panelists, my audience, guys, you are welcome to start talking on the chat box or keep asking questions. I'll take up those questions on the fly, so don't worry about that, right? So why we start about this, you know let me start with very quick 1 minute introduction for the topic. What do you think about leadership? Uh, you know, in the case of cyber incidents, right? Let's start with Gokul.
Hey, thank you. That was it was a good start, and I appreciate that you are welcoming the inputs from the uh, panel, not only panelists, also the listeners. So it's a great start, and it's a very great time to be here with. Very important topic is this. There were multiple panels which we have been involved with respect to how preventively we look into the aspects of cybersecurity, and you had put in a very excellent thought of why fire insurance, or why we have to have an insurance when we are anyway have to hit at the end. So I'm putting it politely, not the way you put it. So so uh, it's 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 like this. Incident management is something, in my opinion, is very important. But however, having said that, I also find majority of the uh, people, or majority of the peers whom with I had actually discussed with, are not very strong with incident management today. So it's a very key point, and ISO 27001 NIST, whatever guidelines, RBI, everything you take, everybody says incident management is very important. And why it is important? There is a reason. When you are actually, it's not that always you will be going on the right path and you will be going on right time. There can be some changes, some issues that you will definitely meet at some point in time. So we have to be prepared for that. So this is basically a plan, not only plan B, this itself is a plan altogether. So we have to look
Well,
in.
well pointed that on that.
So,
Yeah,
so
you have to have a plan in place. You need to be a person with a plan, and something which you rightly said, that not everyone is strong in the incident management, and if that is not there, the leadership is always going to be in crisis, right? So, Agni, your thoughts on this?
So, leadership is important in all phases of a crisis, before, during, or after. But leadership comes to be questioned when you are during the crisis, in that phase. And there are about 4 capabilities that every leader needs to have, no matter where you are. You could be part of the supply chain of decision making. You could be at the apex of decision making, meaning you're at the top, everybody is giving you information. Or you could be sitting in between, taking information from somebody and giving directions to somebody else. It doesn't matter where you are, but there are 4 capabilities that are required at a minimum. The first capability that is required is that you need to exhibit the ability to be calm under the crisis, right? You can't come across somebody who's bothered, who's fidgety, who's overpowering. You need to be able to communicate the fact that you are able to set the priorities, while there will be chaos. So everybody is looking left, right, center. You're focused about what needs to get done. If it is this example that you talked about, the CrowdStrike situation, the leadership of CrowdStrike, the leadership of Microsoft, were, I think, at all points in time focused on how they can come back, bring the customer back to normal, even though there were downsides, etc., etc. But that's the first thing. The second thing that you have to realize is you have to come across somebody who understands, who has empathy, who's willing to, seek additional support, who's willing to admit that, yeah, there is something wrong, and we need to go for better capabilities. We may not have all the capabilities that is required during the crisis to take care of. The third thing that you need then is clarity, which means you need to communicate clearly. When you say that, we need to do A, everybody needs to understand what that A really means. When I say everybody, I mean whether they are your stakeholders, whether they are part of your team, it doesn't really matter, but everyone needs to understand what you really mean. That's a very, very key factor in leadership. And I'm coming from my experience of being in crisis management in HP for about 15 years, right? And I have seen different people come and create chaos. I've seen different people come and create clarity across. And the last thing is adaptability. You should be in a position that even though you have got some bounded, optimism, or as they call it, focused, you are nervous, but you are, optimistic about the fact that something can be made better. You're also willing to accept and be adaptive to newer situations as they arise. So in crisis, and cyber crisis is something which is new. The industry is not used to. So, for example, if there is a flood or a fire or something, there are established mechanisms as to how to handle that. Some people extend that knowledge into cyber crisis also. But the fact is, it's new. Nobody knows what will happen.
The fear of unknown.
The fear of the, so yeah, if you divide that into known unknown, and the unknown unknown, you're treating slowly into unknown, and you're saying now you need a leader who has to come and take stock of the situation and then tell people about something that he
It's a good
he
point,
doesn't know
Agni,
himself.
sir. It's a very good point, Agni, and I think I'm going to discuss this a bit in detail, the fear of unknown, and that is something which really makes a leader. But yeah, over to you, Naseem. What is your thoughts on leadership during the cyber incident?
Yeah, I would say, I am fully aligned with Agni. Even, in my consulting days, I am part of, IR team. I have seen a couple of things, especially the calmness. That is super, super important. If people are not calm in that room, it's very difficult. And whatever Agni said, I can, to be very honest, I can recall those situations where some crisis situation has happened, right? There are few people who actually come and create unnecessary noises for you. There will be people who will come and give you some level of clarity. And one more thing, I have seen in multiple time from a IR side, be focused. Probably if I go back a little bit, probably, in one of my crisis situation, there is a ransomware attack. There are people that are coming, that are giving a lot of unnecessary information. You have to be very much focused on that. And even in multiple crisis situation, I have seen, especially on the cybersecurity side, it's always unknown. There will be hardly 10, 20%, 30% element you can get to know, or probably it's impacting to that situation or to that infrastructure or to that architecture. There will be always, the majority side is unknown. So you really don't know why exactly this thing is happened and how exactly you can quickly come back to the normal situation. That matters a lot, actually. And I believe calmness and focus, these are the two things you have to you have to have in that situation. Then only you can be a leader. You can call yourself as a leader. And yes, at the same time, focusing on what person should do what, means basically what is the duty for each and every
We will
person.
come to that. We will come to that, Naseem. So,
Sure.
yeah, Vikram, over to you.
Thank you, Ajay. I think brilliant inputs. For me, leadership in crisis is absolutely I think very important for any organization. Now, when I say leadership, it is all about, for me, is preparedness. Um, if you are not prepared well, you're preparing for failure. Um, there are multiple examples, and if you see the current attacks that have been happening, you will see certain companies performing well. They are able to recover well. They were able to recover in a shorter time, while there are certain companies who are still recovering or trying to recover from the phases. And the reason for that is preparedness. Have you prepared for the scenarios? Now, there was a point across for cyber crisis. Now, cyber crisis and BCPDR now have to be linked together. I think the Power Ministry have done a very good job. When we come and see the power sector, there are especially, CA has given guidelines on cyber crisis, and these guidelines are now being followed by some private players as well, corporate companies. And I believe the leadership is about preparedness and looking the environment and be ready to take up the information which is available, whether it's any industry, whether it's any practice, whether it's any other regulator who's providing certain type of information should be taken customized to the industry. Let's say if you are a banking industry, you customize those requirements of cyber crisis management plan and build a plan and be prepared for the incident. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot for the initial round of discussions. Now, while we have already spoken about that, what is leadership in the times of crisis or in the times of the cyber incident? Now, let's talk about one important aspect, the leadership. What are these components there, right? What it needs to be there? You have already mentioned all about, like, say, we spoke, Agni spoke about being calm, uh, you know, then Naseem mentioned us regarding the, being able to cut the noise, being adaptable, right? Or being prepared, which, right, being prepared is something which is very, very important. Now, that is where, so I really do not see leadership as, what you're going to do that day, right? The leadership is all about that, how much you have prepared and how swiftly you are able to execute the things. Now, let's talk from that perspective that how do we get this, being focused? How do we get this that we are able to show that empathy, or how we be able to communicate clearly? So let's pick up those pointers. I think, there are multiple points to talk about. I would urge each panelist to talk about two components. What do they think that they can achieve, or an organization achieve that as a part of their leadership? Right? So, let's start with Naseem. Naseem, you spoke about ability to cut the noise and being adaptive, right? So, what do you really think? What are the components which are required that needs to be imbibed into the organization, not only the security team but everyone else, so that they are prepared for any kind of cyber crisis?
Yeah, the first thing what I have seen, or what I have experienced in multiple times, you have to do a prioritization that what exactly is your P0, it's P1 and P2. Once that is decided, it will be super easy for anybody to run the show. Because there are cases I have seen multiple times, people are focusing on a probably P2, P3 item, then they are missing the P0 and P1. So that is one thing. Another thing is that you have to be very clear, especially if you are into a regulatory business, especially into the BFSI, what exactly you have to communicate to the regulator, to the government. In some cases, those are very important things. So focusing on those things, probably the primary two factor I would probably add, and then probably I would love to listen more from the fellow panelist.
Great. Let me go to Agni sir. Dada, you spoke about being calm under crisis. Now, being calm under crisis is not that you can create on the fly. This is something needs to be practiced. So, how do an organizations really focus on being calm at the time of an incident? Because cyber incidents are something which is going to raise flag from all these sides, right? The marketing team, the business team, the management, the media, the regulators. Everybody's going to come together towards you that what's going to happen. Now, how do you build up that calm? I really do not see that as a option to happen.
So there is a slight disagreement that I have with all of you that you're discussing, and that disagreement that I have is you need to be prepared. The fact is, from a crisis perspective, yes, you need to be prepared. But from a leadership perspective, there are multiple situations where you can never be prepared.
Agreed.
So
Absolutely agree.
crisis management, yes, you can say that I will have a plan. I will do my fundamentals of, let's say I will divide the enterprise into manageable pieces, and then I'll make sure that there is enough zoning done so that one attack in one part of the enterprise doesn't affect the attack in another part of the enterprise. This is all part of planning for a crisis. But leadership in a crisis is a totally different ballgame, because you can, and the reason it's a different ballgame is when you land up on the board, there will be a whole lot of people who don't understand what's going on, and they will have positions of power. There will be a whole lot of people who will understand the situation that is going on, but will interpret it from their perspective, and then give you a dimension of that problem which you are not thinking. So if you have a CFO on the board who's coming and telling you, if you do this, we are going to get hit with a market reputation. How do we handle that problem? Somebody from legal will come and tell you, if we are doing this now, it will hit us a regulatory impact in UK. You didn't think about it. If somebody from HR comes and says, well, this could land up us in a regulatory situation with this particular law or this particular requirement, when you enter that room, you will have a lot of noise. When I say
But
calm,
isn't just to ask you here, I mean, you have pointed a really excellent point, right? Because when there is an actual crisis, you really don't know what kind of perspectives you're going to receive. And isn't that all about, right, being prepared? Because while you're preparing for this, isn't this all about that we
no,
talk
you're
about?
not prepared. You're never prepared. Let me put it this way. As I said, let's keep these two things separate. Crisis management, you definitely need to be prepared. So as a CISO, every day you are in a mental state that today something can go wrong. But
Agreed.
that's not how everybody works. And every CISO is different. Every perspective is different. Not only that, not every CISO has a seat at the board. A lot of people end up just by doing incident management because they're directed to do so. I'm talking of those guys who have a leadership position and who land up on the board. There is a crisis. There is a cyber crisis, there's a ransomware, there's some attack, this something, whatever, you have landed on that board. Now you're facing the CEO, the directors, or the CFO, the CIO, the HR guy. You are in chaos. And that's where the calmness and the clarity comes through. Because being a security leader, you need to know what will really make that difference. You need to be filtering out all the noise. CFO will pull you in one direction, HR will pull you in another direction, and you need to say, hold on, hold on. We are here to solve this problem. What's our priority? You need to take, because at the point of a crisis, nobody on the board has that leadership position because they don't understand what the hell is happening. Only you know. You know what the impact will be. So then you need to play that role and say, guys, let's focus. Our priority, customer. Our priority, stakeholder. If we have to do this, then we need to do 1, 2, and 3. We're getting, and you'll get information from all around you. Everybody is giving you some piece of information. This much of incident has been recovered. This much we've been able to fight back. This we are not able to fight back. Or the infection has spread to these parts of the enterprise. There is a requirement in the US, right, where SEC says you need to report a cyber attack, material impact of a cyber attack in 4 days. Most of the CISOs that I talk to, they find it impossible to do it because they're not prepared. I'm coming back to your point. So the cyber crisis management, you are starting your entire security program by saying, for every asset, I need to know what is the material impact if that's not available. Then you are prepared.
I would really love to listen to this topic for a longer time, but I think I need to go back to Vikram and Gokul on this. So Vikram, you spoke about the other parts, that how do we handle chaos? How do you do about that? How do we prepare
Uh,
about that? And considering what Agni just said, so I would want to have that flavor also in place.
yeah, absolutely. Agni, absolutely right. Calmness is the key. Unless you're calm, you cannot take any decision. In fact, if you're looking at the cycle of incident response, there is a part which inculcates that is decision making. When you see decision making, there are no tools for that. There's no technology. This is something which a leader, which is, you can make a leader or born a leader is a separate topic, but a leader will decide the right approach or right method. May be right or wrong in the long term, but at least a decision has to be taken, and that decision will eradicate or at least minimize the impact of that incident. Now, when I say preparedness, it is just not preparedness from incident, because incident, if it's an incident, it is because something went wrong, right? And so the preparedness is from if things go wrong, what you're gonna do. So if from the communication plan, from the internal communication plan, from the external communication plan, who will talk to the, let's say, media? Are you prepared for that? What kind of communication will be sent to the media houses, right? Who will communicate what? What are the statements that you will telling to the media houses? Your social media handles when something go wrong. So that is a level of preparedness that I think a leader should make sure that your team is aware about. That this is the level of, if there is an issue, and there will be issues, I'm sure about it. And let's say they'll be talking about one issue because it's bigger, but I've seen a lot of other issues. I've worked with, I have in my journey, in my career, I've worked from enterprise companies to companies who are very young, 100, 200 people company. And I see a lot of challenges at different stages and different levels. But one thing a leader will inculcate is understand the environment, prepare that environment for the issue, and then once the issue happen, there may be haywire, right? Things may go wrong, things will happen, communication may go wrong, that will happen. But then also, if things go wrong, what we're going to do, that is the level. So for me, I think there are only few Sachin Tendulkars. Rest of us have to be prepared for the big matches, right? So that is what I want to say.
Excellent point out here, Naseem, Agbi, and Vikram, right? And while we talk about all this, right, being prepared is all about being dynamic, right? At that time, able to take a decision, and that's what the really important aspect of it. But again, while we talk about this, Vikram also say the right points. Now, so Gokul, I want to come back to you, rather, change his gears and come back and ask you on, you know, is there any blueprint around this? Are we looking for anything, the steps which will help us create, certain things comes with the gut feeling. Certain things really comes with the thought process that, okay, this is what feels right. But when you start feeling that when you've already done multiple wrongs and you cannot go wrong at the time of crisis, that's absolutely not acceptable. So, do we have or can we have a blueprint that will allow people to be going wrong without any becoming, creating much damage to the organization, or not, let's not say damage to the organization, but not affecting the organization at all, right? So do we have any kind of a blueprint around it? And I'm not only talking about cyber incident from a technical perspective. I'm talking from mainly from an overall perspective, how an organization will behave at the time of any incident.
Great question. So there are many best practices already available. Some of them are actually, if you follow RBI or ISO 27000, where whatever, or the BCP, BCMS, if we are actually having all those things in kind of place and then a control over it, that is going to resolve your problem, at least to some extent. You are actually in a platform, very good platform. Now, it is very important for us to understand that staying in a platform is not enough now. There are air raids, there are submarine raids, there are all kind of raids which are happening, a back front everywhere. So it's very important for us to be understanding certain portions, especially two very important things. One is the incidents which are happening inside the organization, incidents which are happening outside the organization. So incidents which are happening outside the organization, we are not worried. For example, CrowdStrike, maybe the CrowdStrike issues, few or majority of the people got affected who are using CrowdStrike. All those other people, now we are feeling okay, we are safe. We haven't gone into that situation. But what if this happens to your supply chain vendor solutions also? So we have to be prepared from that angle. So certain things that there is a point where we have to stop, where there is a point where we have to say, yes, I have to safeguard. So it's technically impractical to go with two EDRs and XDRs in the same system. So that is also going to create a problem. I'm just putting the CrowdStrike issue. Or thinking about, you have 100 systems, putting 50 systems in CS, putting 50 systems in something else, that is also not going to resolve the problem. So it is a very, very big problem that we have, and we have to think together. And certain cases, it's not that always we have a solution. That's where the incident response team comes into picture. So the tabletop exercise, what are the exercises that we are doing for testing of BCPDR? So it stops at the results. So one of our panelists also pointed out that, have we gone ahead that thinking that these results are positive or negative? Let's put it positive, very good. If it is negative, what is the actions that we have to do as if the incident has happened? We have to do a mock drill with respect to the media people, with respect to the legal, with respect to the DPO, with respect to all the operational people, HR, whoever it is. So how they are reacting. Of course, it's not going to be as chaotic as the realistic example, but at least they know where to come, where to sit, what to put in the place. So bare minimum, this information will actually help us. These are kind of slightly a kind of blueprint where we will be able to take it forward in case if an incident happens. And the last point which I wanted to make is, there is always a dilemma whether we need to have buy an incident response team, including the forensic analysis and other things, from cybersecurity perspective. So I will give a simple example. It's about your business requirements, number one, and whether you want to, you have a vehicle. I'll just give an example. You have a vehicle, you have insurance. Whether you want to go along with the mechanic always in the two-wheeler or not is just incident response team. So sometimes they pay and then get this incident response team also there. Sometimes nothing also happens, but the mechanic always sits in behind you and he's going to occupy that seat. So think about it. So how you're going to use the incident response team, and how your business requirements are placed. All those things you have to take care of.
Ajay, can I add something to that?
I'll come to you, sir. I have a specific question on this specific point, but before I come to you, Naseem, so the components which was discussed by Kokul, that the standards ability to learn from the incidents around, do the tabletop exercises and all, right? Anything, what Gokul missed, you want to add on this? And after that, I want to go to Agni to talk about how to build up all these components to the management, right? So over to you.
See,
Naseem.
a couple of things. The first thing I would say, probably, bit of prioritization. That is super important. If you don't do that, you are going to miss the important things, right? There are certain approach.
No, so prioritization is the component which we spoke about already. The point is that if there is any blueprint that will help us to prioritize.
See, there are a
How
few
do
things.
we build that?
Yeah. So there are a few things like, if I probably share my own experience, first 2, 3 crisis situation, probably I was a bit shaky. I really don't know what to do, because whatever we have planned, whatever we have prepared, it's on paper, and put those things in a situation is very, very difficult. But once you will see, 2, 3 situation, and in cybersecurity, I can tell you that it will be only 30% its known factor is going to come to you. It's always 70 to 80% is always unknown, right? So the preparation will be always on the mental side, how exactly you are going to maintain the calmness, right? And that calmness will come only, and I can say only from experience. You cannot build that capability with tabletop exercise or any such kind of probably DR activity. In their activity, all these things can help you, but in certain level, but not at that situation. So that is point number one. Point number two would be you have to do certain things, right? There are 4 5 defined way. The first thing is that how and what. This is first thing, why this has happened and how it's happened, right? You have to be very much analytical on these things. You probably will not able to point out the exact reason at that time, but if you probably focus on that, some area, or some points which can be the reason, that will help. That is going to help a lot. So IR team will do their own job. There will be team who will help you to come up from that situation, right? IR team will not going to help up going to help you from the recovery side. So how you can recover first. Then one more thing is that what to communicate. That is also super important, I would say, in this situation, especially from non-tech CXOs. They will be in a different kind of panic mode. I'm sure one of the fellow panelists talk about reputational loss, regulatory impact, and I think somebody also talk about, right, there is in US, they will ask you in 4 days time. In India, certain will ask you, in RBI will ask you every 6 hours. They you have to report the initial report. But when you will report that thing, I'm telling you, every 1 hour you will get a call, you will get a phone call from them, and they will ask you what is the update. And believe me, in 1 hour, there are in major crisis, you will not get any update. So those are the situation you have to understand, and you have to experience this. These things, to be very honest, there are no blueprint is available that, okay, this way we are going to handle every cases is different kind of puzzle. You have to solve it with some basic or fundamentals. So those fundamentals, I think we
Great.
already.
Yeah, thanks for that, Naseem. So, Agni sir, now coming to you now on this. Now, see, we have some basic idea, but see, the important part is that how do we build this up so that the leader on the top who is going to actually run this through, right? How do we build that up? Because there has to be somebody who should be able to take the reins and let the horse ride through the crisis, right? That is really required. So how do we do that? Because we can build up the components that you rightly said, right? But how are we going to make sure that the leader is going to be? We need information to be successful, right? Or to be right. So over to you.
So as I said initially, there are two parts of the problem. Leadership is different from crisis management. You can do all kind of preparations for crisis management, and like Naseem said, in the end, probably only 30% of that will work. The leadership component is this, that when you look at doctors, think of a surgeon who's going for a very complicated open heart surgery. He doesn't go in with a full preparation. Okay, I will first pick up the forceps and then pick up the pincer. That's not his important. What is important is he knows what the situation is. He's prepared. He knows the context as he's walking into the surgery. And now all that he needs to be prepared for are resources. So when he puts his hand on the right, the person on the right should know he's asking for scissors. So you need that guy standing next to you, putting the scissors in your hand, because you don't have the time to talk. It's in your mind, you're already going and you're solving the problem. So to your point, how do you bring all these things together is you prepare for an incident, you prepare for a crisis by putting in plans, resources, everything. But when you walk in through that room, you bring in that fact of calmness that I talked about by knowing what you have to do, because context of a problem, of a crisis will differ. You'll never be prepared, never. So as Naseem said, you'll probably get 30% of that to work. For example, what I do is I do cyber defense modeling. Now, cyber defense modeling is modeling for defenses in a micro segmented world, that when the attack happens, how do you move from one zone to another and start defending the attack? Now, that's a resource. I may not use that resource in a particular situation, or I may use that particular resource only. But before I walk in, my preparation is I should have tested that all my cyber defense models are working, so that when I press that button and I say, okay, scissors, which is basically, invoke a containment program or do something about it, then that has to work. So that's what happens during a crisis. You don't have the time to go back and see how things are done. You do that during business as usual. That is before a crisis. You start planning for what resources will you need on that day to become that leader, who will drive everybody. I have been in situations where I have gone into a room very early in my career, and while the rest of the room was expecting me to come up and do something, suddenly I have a CEO or a regional manager of a particular location, business unit, who comes up and says, "No, we'll do it in this way," and I have no power to tell him no. I have also been in a room where the CEO has come in and said, "This is how it will be done," and I would stand up and say, "Sir, with all due respect, that is not going to work because of 1, 2, and 3. We need to do 4, 5, and 6." And the CEO has stood down and said, "You take leadership, we will do it your way." So both have been there, but that's what I'm trying to tell you is I have evolved over a period of time. And
It's a journey.
it's a journey. To
It's a journey.
Naseem's point, you don't need to wait for a crisis to understand that what do you need. You can exercise. And I have not seen, I know most of the industry leaders who do cyber war gaming and all that. And you've been in many cyber war games probably. I have not seen a successful cyber war game ever. Ever. Every cyber war game fails because you are not prepared for the most important factor that works during crisis, which is communications. You are never prepared. Your communications team will tell you, "We can't do templates." And you have to go back and tell them, "You have to do templates because that's a resource that I need during the crisis." I will tell you, "Okay, now we need to send out a SITREP, a situation report that tells what is the status of this crisis." Look at how CrowdStrike is doing it. I'm not saying they're the best. I'm not saying they're the worst, but look at how they're doing it. It's a lesson in crisis management. They came up with a primary information report. They came up with a more detailed report. They're coming up with these communications. If you read that 52-page report, you will see that there are different parts of the technical response that they've given, which they did not give in the primary information report. So the communications is very, very important.
Yeah, that's a very good example out here. And I think, I'm already getting pinged internally that we need to close it, but I'm getting 10 more minutes on this, right? So, okay, now it's a very good input, Agni sir. Let me change the gear a bit and come to Vikram on this. Vikram, can you give us a quick, uh, at least 4 to 5 or 7 tools or technologies, while there are other components we spoke about that will help leadership with the information and all, and Agni sir, was able to collate it very well. What tools will also, if you can give us some list around that, that will help us to understand more about the incident, or help us during the incident crisis, or help us take the better decisions.
Sure, Ajay. I'll, the n number of tools, by the way, now in the market is flooded,
I
but
just
I'll try
need 5 or
to.
7.
So yeah, so I'll try to put it in a more, I think, organized manner. When you talk about incident response, I use a method called observe, orient, decide, and act. Now, when I say observation, is more about we are trying to see what is happening in our network. For that, there are a lot of tools which are in the market. You see EDRs, IDRs, you see DLPs, UEBA, I'm not naming the tools as such, just the category of those tools right now. You want me to name the tool as well, by the way?
No. That's absolutely fine. CDR. I mean, everybody knows what CDR is. So that's
Yeah. Yeah. So there are SIM tools for identifications. There are tools for orientation is more towards analyticals or analysis of those incidents. Once that incident happens, what kind of severity is that? Whether it's impacting a bigger audience, is impacting just a small one office area or a bay area, whether it's impacted geographically many locations. So from that perspective, there are a lot of tools in threat research, threat intelligence. There are tools for investigations. Again, there are open source tools and commercial tools, both available in the market, as we say. Then there are tools. Again, I said that as per decision formation or decision, what once you identify the incident, that is the time when you decide, and based on severity of incident, what needs to be done. Now, from decision perspective, while as Agni and other stakeholders, all the members are speaking about, the leadership. There comes the leadership where actually, based on all the information that you have on grounds, the kind of incident that happened, the severity of that incident, it is time to decide on whether the incident is because of a network issue, application issue, one is application issue, patch issue. Decide on what kind of issue and what kind of severity level it has. It is severity 1, 2, 3, depending on again one. Geography or the areas it's been impacted, and the operations, when it may be a regulatory impact, this may be a business impact. Then a decision is formed. What needs to be done, what kind of actions to be taken. Then there are tools to act. Now, when I say tools to act, there are tools which can eradicate those issues. Some are manual actions, some are automated, like anti-malware tools are there to eradicate malwares. There are again SOAR tools now available that automate the response. So SOAR and SIM, that the basic difference is the SOAR basically automate the response of an action. Then there are patch management tools. If there are, let us say, there are some issues with the patch updates, so the patching process can be automated. There are, backup and recovery tools available. Um, so security awareness training, because some part we realize that after a while, when there is a learning that happened from the incident, when we have fully recovered, those learning has to be trained back to the service desk team, to your incident response team, to the global team, to the end users as well. In case of such kind of new sensitivities, if they see again, then the awareness become important. So there are a lot of awareness tools in the markets as well, which are helping. So I think this is the list I can put together
I think
in a
this is
short
this
time.
is fantastic. I think, and it's really great to have that. Anyone from the panelists would like to add on what Vikram just beautifully gave us a perspective on the tools which can be used to help us take a better decision during the leadership, during the incident, for the leadership during the incident management or during the cyber incident. Anyone?
Let me add
Yeah.
microsegmentation in there. Today's microsegmentation has evolved. There used to be a time when microsegmentation implementation used to take years. Now it's done in days and weeks. But most importantly, why microsegmentation is a very essential tool, because it helps you segment your enterprise into what is critical and what is less criticality. So that, and it also helps you contain an attack, because what is microsegmentation? At the end of the day, it's a software-based tool to disconnect your network into bits and pieces, right? Because it has disconnection capability, it gives you a great capability to leverage existing investment. Let's say you have bought an EDR tool, and if you can integrate your EDR to your microsegmentation, brilliant. The EDR itself will give input to the microsegmentation. There's an attack, microsegmentation, and I'm looking at a future where all this will be autonomous, where the tool will learn there is an attack, tool will automatically figure out that there is a template to disconnect, the critical resources so that the business can continue while the attack is being disrupted.
Perfect. I think this is an excellent add-on. All right. So
Probably one
lastly,
liner, yeah, one
yeah,
liner
Naseem.
of mine. One more thing I have experienced. Probably it will be a great help if you just want to know log analytics by your own script of Python script. That's give you huge insight. I experienced this thing multiple times.
So log analytics will actually add into your something on the SIM
So
or
the problem with these SIM tools or any XDR tool is that they have a very much for any kind of zero day attack. These attackers are very well trained and they're very well educated as well. They know which tool you have. They have your complete details. But probably in some cases I've seen just get the raw log, do a small, or I'd say write a small script in Python, just do a basic analytics, you will get a lot of insights. So that's
interesting. Thanks.
I think he is right. Behavior analytics outside of an SIM are always very helpful.
Perfect. Perfect. We have got five, I think 3 more minutes because I will summarize in last 2 minutes. Okay, 3 more minutes. I just want a leadership lesson, lessons for the leadership on the recent CrowdStrike thing which happened, right? The outage which happened, right? Now, this was not a cyber incident. It was a purely incident of an IT, okay, which was because of the updating of the patches. Now, but still being as a part of a security and a security control affecting the organization as a whole, I want to get a quick summary, 1 minute each, not more than that. Okay. Please give me a quick input on what should be done in such areas, or what are the learnings in this from the CrowdStrike engagement. If you can just give me quickly.
Yeah, I will start. It's a very good point wherein the leadership actually, in my opinion, CrowdStrike leader has shown phenomenal leadership during this particular instance. So number one, what we have to learn is be transparent. Of course, certain things, all the leaders will try not be like this. They will try to push certain thing under the carpet, but this has come into limelight, so he was not able to do. I don't know, but however, transparency is number one, and agreeing to what has happened, that strength, and facing it in front of the media and people and the customers. All these things are very important. In case if we had faulted, it is, in my opinion, it is okay to say I had faulted. I will learn from this, and then I have these steps. Like one of my panelists told, I have this is the first report, a small report which shows what has happened. Second report, which is of 40 to 52 pages, which show the detailed report. Probably they will come up with some more items and then automated systems also to bring back all those solutions that they had given in the interim. So it's very important to be transparent and then face things and then take things along with everyone together. If you just keep things on to your own, probably other people will not understand, and then it will be chaos, complete chaos.
So transparency and involving people together is what we are looking at. Okay, Agni sir, your point.
My point is very simple. Invest in insurance. And
that's a good point.
Yeah, because it is time that, and some people did invest in insurance. If you look at insurance reports, they're saying that, I think the last report I saw is probably some $30 million or something like that is going to be a payout, and insurance companies are worried. So there was insurance for IT disruption already planned for. Some people are going to take advantage of that. The point that I'm trying to make again is plan for insurance, put your money there, because on that day, take the example of Wimbledon. Wimbledon had invested in pandemic insurance for 10 years, $2 million they paid for 10 years.
Wow.
That's $20 million. And in 2020, they did not have an event. They minted $125 million. And not only that, the $125 million was more than the amount of money they could have made by hosting the program. So insurance is very important.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. Coming to, I think Naseem, you haven't spoken, or
Okay, so I would say plus on to Agnidipta. And one more thing I learned in my NTRO days, that don't trust anybody. So this incident, whatever CrowdStrike incident happened, it's basically a third party risk, right? So in our training days, it's always we get trained like that. Even you should not fully, I would say, you should not trust fully your manager as well. Okay, so don't trust. So don't give them
We should have a separate topic on trust.
I know, seriously.
That's all.
But yeah,
That's all.
Vikram, yes, yeah, thank you. And Vikram, last points from your side before I summarize this.
Uh, Thank you, Ajay. So Ajay, I'll be a little critical with the the current event or incident of CrowdStrike. If you gentlemen are, I think, maybe aware about the recent incident of CrowdStrike actually got into a ransomware attack perspective. It's very recent news, and within few days or weeks, you get another incident where a patch is released, which is not tested. It is sent to the devices of millions of 8.3 million devices impacted worldwide. I will not give a clean sheet as of now. Maybe good communication, I don't mind it. They have to, because their shares are going down. They have to do it. But the impact that has happened because of CrowdStrike have to be looked at very critical level now. Not from the just from the it should be looked from the private sector, public sector both. Now, from the private sector, it is imminent. Now we look at the privacy, the security by design principles of such tools, where you are giving access to a tool which is at the kernel level, and there is no fail safe switch. So if let's say I was part of that incident, I was managing that incident for a company. I was there while that happened. So I was, while I was talking to IT team, I was saying, okay, disable it, remove it. It's not possible. It's not possible with this kind of case altogether when kernel level are involved. So what are the options that we have right now is, again, look at the supply chain, again look at the security by design principles of supply chain, and just don't go by names of big companies. Just go by good organizations who want to do good. In India, we should promote make in India, look at make in India products and services, and be very critical for such organizations. Do not give them space inside India if they are not able to deliver the services or product at to the level. And we should be very critical, and not because of communication. We should give them clean sheet, and we should, I would say, look for some other options from media perspective straight away.
Okay, thanks a lot for that. And I think we are on the end of the panel. So before I close this panel, I just wanted to share my screen and give you a okay. CyberFrat, if you can give me a screen sharing rights quickly, I just want to flash my screen. A quick wind map which I just prepared. I just wanted to showcase it so that just a second. Give me a minute if I'm able to share my screen. Right. So, but it was an excellent thought. I think, 1 hour is not enough to have this discussion. I think every component requires a quick and good lengthy discussion, but great inputs from each and every one of you. Okay. And let me see. Bhairavi, can you help me with the sharing of my screen?
Yes, sir. So we are doing it. Just 1 second.
Yeah.
Also, Aditi and Bhairavi ring the bell. That was really nice. It reminded of school days. One period over and now to the next.
That's true. That's true, Nirali.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I was just told that 1 घंटा कब खत्म हो गया पता नहीं चला, frankly speaking. So
Ajay, you can try now.
just a second. Yeah, let me see the screen, guys. If you see this, this is what I just learned in last 1 hour. The challenges is what we are looking at is that a leadership should be able to work under unknown to across the chaos, because only the 30% of the preparation work, and the components of the leadership is able to be calm, able to show empathy, able to communicate, being adaptive. Insurance, another segment which was well pointed out, able to manage different perspectives, a good point by Agni, right? Moving towards the blueprint part of it, very well given by one of the panelists. Standards, follow the standards. They train you a lot. You should be able to learn from the incidents around. That was another very important point. do practice that will only help you gain you the experience. Have your have a third party IRT. Another really important point, templates to have on what to communicate. That's again an important point. And the tools wise, very well said by Vikram as well, right? Summarized here. What I'll do is I will try to formalize this more and give it back to CyberFrat, and they can share it on the social media and the channel, so that at least the summary of this session is there for everyone to review it. And I mean use this at least as a framework, but not as a Bible. So this will help you start somewhere, right? Thank you guys, thanks a lot for being an excellent panelist, excellent thoughts, right? And until we meet again. Thank you, guys.
Ajay, you are an excellent moderator.
Ajay. Thank
I'm
you.
impressed with the summary that you had shown. Thanks very much.
Amazing, Ajay. Thank you. Wonderful. Very good
Thank you,
summary.
guys.
Work, Ajay.
Thank you.
Ajay, share that with us also offline.
I will put it in our group as well, boss.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ajay, you
Bye.
took 7 minutes more from us. So you need to
No
compensate
problem. No
for that.
problem. You can.
Now you
Nirali,
have to be in this panel
Nirali,
also.
he
I
has
don't
taken
mind.
20 minutes mine as well.
Hai na? Ajay, next tweet is on you.
Done. 100%. See you guys.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye, guys.